Hello and welcome to this special edition of Kalam Podcast due to the dramatic escalation in the Middle East. In the past few days, Lebanon and parts of Syria were terrorized when Israel managed to detonate thousands of telecommunication devices held primarily by members of the armed group Hezbollah, deemed a terrorist organization by much of the Western world. These devices simultaneously exploded in the pockets of Hezbollah members on Tuesday afternoon. Many were doing like everyday things like grocery shopping or sitting in their homes when these devices exploded, obviously resulting in immense collateral damage. So far, 37 people have been killed, including an 8-year-old girl, and many thousands have been injured. Chaos reigned in large parts of Lebanon as hospitals strained to treat the thousands of victims pouring into ER rooms. Israel hasn't taken official responsibility for these attacks, but there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they are responsible. And yesterday afternoon, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah gave a typically defiant speech in response to the attacks. It's a great honor for me to now introduce a colleague and a friend, Lebanese journalist Ralph Baydoun, who joins us directly from Beirut. Ralph, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Edgar. Pleasure to be with you.
So, Ralph, what has Lebanon been like for the past few days?
Well, Lebanon has been trying to understand what just happened. Um, it's quite a shock for Hezbollah. It's quite a shock for everybody here. The targeting 3 to 4 thousand people in minutes, that's unprecedented in history. It's basically what just happened is the definition of a Trojan horse attack. It's it's literally it's never happened since the Trojan War between the Greeks and the Trojans.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the midst of a war, and we're now in the second phase of the war, which like as the Israelis have declared recently. So yeah, we just absorbed the hit.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone yesterday in Beirut who's like, you know, Lebanon has gone through so many challenges in the past, not just, few years, but the past decades, let's be honest. And people kind of like still go about their lives as usual. The nightlife is always like popping. Have you noticed like something like a shift with this attack? Is something, different?
Well, the nightlife is not the metric I look at, to be honest. We're used to instability. We're used to taking hits. We call ourselves resilient, but the matter of fact is that the real sentiment and the true sentiment is underreported. Um, the Lebanese, we just have to look at the context. Since 2019, since the economic crisis that the worst economic crisis in the past century. We've been hit with the Beirut explosion, and after the Beirut explosion, the war started here. So we haven't recovered from the crisis. We started to recover. Our economy was in the recovering phase. Investors started seeing the opportunity in this crisis here because the currency lost its value. The labor got cheaper, so there was opportunity for investors in Lebanon. The war started and it stopped all the growth, all the potential growth that we were gonna get, and now we're in a stagnation phase. The difference between 2006 and now is that back then, first of all, it was a very short war. Two, people had money. They had their savings in the banks. Now nobody has access to their savings. People are really suffering economically. More than 80% are under the poverty line. We had the fastest decline in the middle class, and now we've got the war. I wouldn't say nightlife is a metric. I wouldn't say life is normal in Beirut. No, we're just on survival mode. And what the attack did uh, cannot could not really be measured right now because it has an indirect impact on the economy and the people.
Mm.
It had an indirect impact. The war in general has indirect impact on the economy and those kinds of attacks have indirect impact on the public trust and the trust between the Hezbollah community in itself.
Yeah.
So in terms of indirect impact on the economy, today the numbers that we're hearing from the Ministry of Economy is that we've suffered more than $6 billion in losses. Um, and of course, we stopped growth for startups and industries in Lebanon. Um, but we don't know, we can't calculate the indirect impact fully until the war ends. So that's on the economic part. On the trust part, Israel around 2 months ago targeted Fuad Shukr, the second in command in Hezbollah and Dahi. What this attack did, it pushed a massive amount of people to get out of Dahi, the southern part of Beirut, the
Mm.
Hezbollah stronghold. This influx of displacement out of Dahi, and I spoke with some families who chose to go back to the south, thinking it's safer than Dahi because they had more control over their surroundings and neighborhoods. Because in Dahi, it's an overcrowded neighborhood, huge buildings with so many unknown residents. So this created mistrust between the community itself. They don't know who are their neighbors. They might be Hezbollah operatives, and Israel has proved over and over again that it is willing to kill so many civilian lives to take out just one operative.
Yeah.
So having the criminal aspect of Israel and having the loss of deterrence from the Hezbollah side, that creates this uncertainty and the lack of the eroding trust. This is what's happening. This is the basic impact. And there's also the impact on the military, on Hezbollah military. Yesterday, throughout Hezbollah's Nasrallah's speech, Israel broke the sound barrier over Beirut and threw fireballs. Shortly after the speech, they striked over 70 locations all over Lebanon and few locations in Syria. So we see that the Israeli strategy is undermining Hezbollah's authority, shaking the trust, and hitting them hard, hitting their deterrent capability hard. The attack that happened on the 17th of September and the 18th of September, it's not a sophisticated attack as we thought at first. It is actually the lobby of intelligence operations. It is literally the first floor or the 101 of military intelligent operation or
So yeah, so what happened?
operation.
So what was this? What was it?
What we saw first, we thought that it was a highly sophisticated cyber attack, but apparently it was a manufacturing attack. So
Yeah.
and that's what's scary, and that's the most surprising, that a paramilitary that depends highly on imported goods and imported parts did not fell for this trap, procured a large shipment of pagers and talkie-walkie that they thought they were safe, because let's remember that the Hezbollah moved from phones, from encrypted messaging to this type of communication after the war started, like since this early on this summer, since Israel started attacking Hezbollah operatives based on their phones and their communication systems.
Yeah.
Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah went on TV and said, your phone is the spy. Move your phone, get away from your phone. This is your spy. So he gave an order to all his operatives to stay away from the phones and just use the pager. So this operation has been in the making for the past, I don't know, maybe month or years. And the fact that Hezbollah didn't check, didn't verify, didn't test those pagers is a major red flag. And let's just look at the the group that has been targeted in this attack. Basically, who holds those communication means? Who the
Yeah.
mediums? It's either heads of units, coordination, or logistics people, and that's a big blow.
Yeah.
That's a big blow because, first of all, those are the people with experience, with military experience in 2006 war and military experience in Syria. Yesterday, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said that he tried to reestablish some sort of confidence and trust, and said that he will see the injured back in the battle and back on the battlefield in days, which is, I'm not sure. I see a discrepancy between what he said and the true reality that we're receiving from hospitals. You know, we see doctors going on TV saying that most of the cases, most of the injured, and we're talking about around 3,000 injured, most of the cases are medium to high level injuries, mostly in eyes and in fingers.
Yeah.
So this makes me question, is Nasrallah fully aware of this? Is his close circle trying to hide information from him, or is he just sending a message to the Israeli media to say that our capability is intact, or what's happening here? Because the Lebanese people saw the amount of damage, we've seen it. We can't hide it. He can't hide it. And the Israelis, in the first minutes of the attack, have published videos of the attack on their Telegram pages and their social media. And later on, we found out that those footage were not published by the Lebanese open source, which lead us to the real intent of the attack, which was not just to eliminate 4,000 people of the heads of units and coordination and logistics. The real jewel of the attack is the information received from this attack. In the first few minutes of the attack, Hezbollah, or the people surrounding the injured people, did not grasp or did not understand that it is this wide.
Yeah.
It is a wide-scale attack targeting multiple locations from Lebanon to Syria, targeting around 4,000 people. So what happened in the first minutes is people around the injured called for help. They disclosed locations. They probably disclosed identities. And now we know from the Israeli open source that they have hacked the $10 cameras in Beirut. You've got surveillance cameras all over the place that are bought also from a supply chain that Israel has proved to be able to tamper with.
Yeah.
Those cameras have been hacked by the Israelis. And so the attack disclosed the location of the operatives, their identity, their families, they connected it. We now know from Israel that they have AI software such as Where is Daddy and other tools. Those AI use open source data and AI face recognition to connect the dots and register it in their database. So it's an intelligence nightmare for Hezbollah. Yeah.
What do you make of the theory that Hezbollah started like examining some of these devices and they realized that something was up with them, and so Israel took their chance. Do you think that was the case, or did Israel execute this when they wanted to?
It's very plausible. It's very plausible. Let's look at the context though. Amos Hochstein was the American envoy to the region, was in Israel last week, just days before the attack. He went the statement he published after his visit was very negative, was very pessimistic, trying to say that I'm trying to convince the Israelis, but they're unconvinced.
Mm.
And we saw that the Israeli cabinet has delegated the decision of the war to Gallant and Netanyahu. We know, and 24 hours before the attack, they declared a new phase of the war in Lebanon.
Yeah, yeah.
So, whether Hezbollah discovered this covert mission 24 hours ahead of this context, and the Israelis knew about it, so they coordinated and said we started the phase just as a preemptive action. This could be the scenario. The other scenario would be the other scenario could be that Israel is eliminating coordination, logistics, and heads of units because it's preparing like a larger scale war.
Oh.
It's escalating in the ladder of escalation.
But you
but this theory could be wrong. Israel could prove this theory wrong if they didn't act in the next week.
Yeah.
If they didn't act on it, because the more they delay an offline action that will lead to a strategic change, the more Hezbollah would adapt to the new reality. But Hezbollah is now faced with two problems: the replacement of the personnel problem, which is great in itself, because if you were talking about 4,000 or 3,000 to 4,000 people, and basically the ones replacing them, we don't know if they are trained, if they have the same expertise, if they have the same capacity. In addition to that, you've got the communication network system. So you've built your military exercise based on a certain communication mean. Now you've got to change that along with the personnel. So we don't know if Hezbollah has foreseen this in their trainings. We don't know how agile they are. Yes, actually, we know that they are agile, but we don't know how fast this agility can be applied.
Sure, yeah. I mean, people, obviously there's talk about you hinted at it, a possible invasion or some kind of offline activity from Israel. Are you surprised that it hasn't happened yet? I mean, the theory that okay, you hit the comms and then you send in troops, boots on the ground. Are you surprised this hasn't happened?
This favors the first theory that you just said, that Hezbollah probably had this do it or lose it format. Listen, Hezbollah's strength lies in defense.
Yeah.
We saw what happened in 2006. The damage inflicted on Israel in its 3-day invasion to Lebanon was great. So Hezbollah has been preparing for this moment, and we have a mountainous terrain. There is not one precedent in the history. Actually, there is just one, which is the Colombian-Argentinian war. They had a similar geography, but we don't have any historical example of an occupier managing to win over a resistance in a mountainous area. In addition to that, Hezbollah is no regular resistance. Is no regular paramilitary force. It's the strongest paramilitary force in the world. They have an extensive amount of tunnel systems in this between the south and Beirut and the Bekaa and probably connecting borders. So it's not a piece of cake for Israel. Um, however, after Nasrallah's speech yesterday, I noticed one thing. For the first time, he went into details
Mm,
about the security belt that Israel is trying to establish.
yeah.
So for the past almost a year, they've been bombing the bordering villages, and they've been actually applying they've been carpet bombing the bordering villages, which is also creating like a security belt without boots on the ground.
Yeah.
The equation, the ceiling of Nasrallah's threats went down from you cannot invade Gaza and we will stop you from invading Gaza, to you will not defeat Hamas militarily, to you will not defeat Hamas politically, to you cannot invade Lebanon, to you cannot return the northern settlers to the north if you
Yeah.
establish a security belt. Which tells me that Hezbollah is taking the security belt situation very, very seriously. When he says in 1978, security belt format is unattainable and will not sorry, he didn't say unattainable. He said will not return the northern settlers, will not help you
Yeah.
achieve your goal by returning the settlers. He's not saying you can't achieve the security belt. He's saying you might achieve the security belt, but this will not help you achieve your goal.
Of returning Israelis, internally displaced Israelis to northern Israel.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of the decreasing severity and the list of sort of demands that Hezbollah has been able to make on Israel since the start of this war. Um, can you talk a little bit about Hezbollah's standing in Lebanon? I think a lot of people outside of the Lebanon are assuming that Lebanese people are standing defiant with Hezbollah, and this might even like increase the support for them. But like, how do people actually relate to this group right now?
Well, there's there's a mixed feeling about this, and there's a nuance that's missing from the media talk.
Yeah,
First of all, what the word hears from Lebanon is not truly representative of the sentiment of the people. First of all, the people of the South are underrepresented. And we don't see interviews with regular people in the South to tell you what do they think about this war and what's
exactly.
happening.
Yeah, yeah,
We see interviews from the close community, the conservative community of Hezbollah, who will definitely repeat the Hezbollah narrative and rhetoric. In terms of the sentiment towards Hezbollah, in the past few days, we've seen a national, an overwhelming, uh, I wouldn't say overwhelming, I would say actually, we saw solidarity on the political level and on the people's level. On the political level, even the arch enemies of Hezbollah, such as Samir Jaja, the LF right, Christian right wing, saying that this is no time for political discussions or like fights. It's time for solidarity. What just happened is big, and it's time for solidarity, which is great. Which is great that
yeah,
we are not taking this as an advantage to attack each other. On a people's level, you've got two groups. One that is actually also um, like having the same sentiment, and the other, which is a small minority, which is probably not a small minority. It's like a big group of Lebanese also. that they may be silent right now because they respect the martyrs and they respect
Mm.
the blood that has been shed.
Yeah.
But they have a very, very vivid memory of the problems caused by Hezbollah. For the listeners, that I'm pretty sure they most of the people don't know exactly what has been going on in Lebanon for the past 15 to 20 years. A group of Lebanese, a big group of Lebanese people, have a very, very bad perception of Hezbollah because of a lot of mistakes that Hezbollah did in the Lebanese context. Hezbollah is perceived by a big chunk of people that perceived as a murderer, as someone who assassinated political leaders,
Yeah.
opposition journalists, uh, getting invading Beirut in 7 May. And by the way, this invasion of Beirut on the 7th, on May 7th, 2007 or 8, I don't remember. It happened because of the same communication network that was tampered 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Lebanese government wanted to actually stop this informal secure communication network, and as a result of that, Hezbollah invaded Beirut.
Yeah.
So and also in addition to that, you've got his involvement in Syria to support a dictator that occupied Lebanon
Yeah.
for 15 years.
Yeah.
That was a direct actor in the civil war that caused many thousands of deaths.
Yeah.
So, and many also question within the Lebanese community, the benefits from getting us involved in this war, because the first we got involved to support Gaza, and now it's apparent that we don't have a border with Gaza, and we saw what we're witnessing genocide live streamed on social media and on TV.
Yeah.
We know we had little effect with saving Gaza. We also some like half of the Lebanese people also see that Hezbollah's involvement in the war actually gave Israel a better narrative, a
Yeah.
narrative that it's being attacked by the Axis. So it shifted the narrative from Israel is committing a genocide to Israel is under attack by Iran and its allies in the region.
Yeah. Fighting, fanatics.
So you've got all those elements together. For sure, there's a high level of awareness right now in Lebanon. At least the majority are not speaking up against Hezbollah, because at the end of the day, these people who are being injured and killed, those are our relatives, our neighbors, our colleagues. The overwhelming majority of the people in Lebanon know that they don't have a problem with this person, but they have a problem with the political leadership, political religious leadership, and they have a problem with their affiliation and being part of a bigger geopolitical game, and not being on top of it. So before October 8th, there was a debate in Lebanon or between opposition the opposition groups, so the groups that oppose Hezbollah. This debate was centered around two ideas. One says that Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy and it's useless to have a dialogue with because it receives its orders from Iran.
Yeah.
And the other a group was arguing that no, there's Hezbollah are Lebanese people, which is true. Hezbollah has like proved in many incidents that they have some sort of autonomy over their decision, starting from the maritime deal that they did with Israel, which, by the way, uh, they gave up a piece of land, a piece of maritime,
Yeah.
like a piece of our maritime.
The energy deal, right?
Yes, which equivalent to 800 square kilometer.
Yeah.
We gave it up to Israel in return for extraction of gas from our fields. By the way, this deal was the biggest scam because we started negotiating without any data from our side. So we negotiated on a piece of maritime. Um, what do you call it? A piece of maritime
Water.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. That we're not sure that has the commercial quantities of gas.
Yeah.
So, and on this, they proved that they had some sort of autonomy. When China brokered the normalization deal just before the October 7th attack, China brokered normalization between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
When this happened, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah went on TV a few days later, and what we received from that speech that they were unaware of this move.
Mm.
So this argument that Hezbollah could be is Lebanese and could have autonomy over their decision and would probably place Lebanon's interest ahead of uh, the regional interest
Yeah.
fell on October 8th. On October 8th, they said we're gonna get into the fight to support, just to support. That's the Class A speakers of Hezbollah. Class B speakers of Hezbollah, everybody was saying, we don't want war. We're just doing this to support, but we don't want total war. What does that tell you? It tells you that, okay, we are one step in and one step out,
Yeah.
you know? You can't have that. You can't have that in a country that is recovering from an economic crisis. We are in a demographic decline. Do you think the opposition groups would like to see 4,000 people dead from 4,000 men in
Yeah.
their peak productive years, and we are in a minus demographic chart? That is stupid.
Yeah.
We've got an economic crisis. We've got a demographic decline. We've got a refugee problem, not a Syrian, there's a refugee problem that we have the highest number of refugees per capita in the world.
Mm.
So on top of all that, we got into a fight. So this theory took a huge blow. It's harder to defend Hezbollah after what they did on October 8th in terms of from a Lebanese opposition perspective. Like, you can argue morally and you can have this argument, but then it's a game theory at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What are we gaining? What are we losing? And there's a common argument I receive from pro Hezbollah, like from the people who see value in this battle.
Okay.
That on a strategic level, in a few years, Israel will be gone because they're suffering on the economy. They're suffering also from the displacement issue from in the north. It's shaking the trust in their community. something that is being underreported and disregarded by the people who are arguing that on a strategic level we are winning on a global stage. Like the world is witnessing this genocide, so it might affect policy later on. And on an economic level, Israel is losing so much.
Yeah.
On a society level, it's actually losing. You've got 200, around 150 to 200,000 displaced in the north. But I think this, this argument disregards an important factor, which is the changing global system. Had this genocide happened 10 years ago, maybe I would tell you, yes, there would have been a chance for a strategic win. However, we are in the deglobalization phase,
Yeah.
which means we are seeing the complete disregard of international humanitarian law and the rules of war, starting from Russia, Ukraine, to Israel, Palestine, to Lebanon. No one, Israel, no one would give a damn about international humanitarian law. Why? Because America has no longer a vested interest in being the global police.
Yeah.
So this retraction of American interest and role is going to cause that disconnect. So this is one thing. On the global aspect, deglobalization, America is leaving. America has been trying for the past 10 years, since Trump was telling Israel, was giving them the advice of the parents, telling them, we're leaving the region, try to come up with a solution with the Arab world, try to integrate yourself, because we're no longer going to be your security guarantee.
Yeah.
So you've got that on the global stage. Inside Israel itself, we're forgetting that this is like the third or fourth generations of Israelis that were born in Israel.
Yeah.
It's like the first wave of refugees, of settlers coming from wherever in Europe, from a socialist background.
Yeah.
To Israel. No, these are kids that were brought in Israel, taught the Zionist mindset. We see videos of 5 years old spitting on Christian tourists in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It's the mentality we're dealing with. We're not talking about people who would, definitely pack their shit and go.
Yeah.
No, they in the latest public opinion surveys, you see that 80% of the people are saying that the army is not doing enough.
Yeah. Netanyahu his popularity is increasing the past few weeks.
A country that's been democratically choosing more and more right-wing fascist people.
Yeah.
This do you know Meir Cohen? Citrus.
Kahan, yeah.
This Meir Cohen. This person was labeled as a terrorist and was kicked out of the Knesset 20 years ago. Right now, more than 40-50% of the population are come from the same school and the same mindset.
Sure.
So, strategically speaking, this is a nuclear power that actually overcame the issue of leaving, having their population to leave the country. And I think it's misinformation or disinformation from our side, from the pro-Palestinian camps, to just focus that, they're going to leave, they're going to pack their shit and leave. Yes, they did. There's a big part that did leave, but the rest, they were born there and they were fight till the and they have more technological power and more supplies, unlimited supplies and unlimited money and unlimited power in the center of the power. So strategically speaking, if we're betting on the long run, what's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, the world is gonna be busy dealing with so many different issues, such as climate change, the lack of food, lack of water. We're gonna have this connection problems. The internet, as we know it, will change. We're gonna have supply chain problems. The Houthis started it, but soon enough, every entity in the world will start doing the same. We started seeing it in the Black Sea in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So the world is going to be busy fighting those essential problems for their survival. And in the meanwhile, we've got more than the numbers that we're talking about right now about Gaza saying that 40,000 is not close to the real number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got that big of a loss. You've got we're seeing this genocide unfolding in front of before our eyes. So we're still using the prime product of globalization, which is social media and internet, but without the benefits of the globalization system, which is
Yeah.
security and
Yeah.
more.
Exactly.
This would create a huge disconnect and would lead to chaos within the countries. And in addition to that, who can prevent a false flag attack in a country like the US or Europe? I'm not saying 9/11 was a false flag. I'm saying such like 9/11,
Yeah.
like this big of an attack to put the Arabs and the Muslim world in the same box they were put in 20 years ago.
Yeah. Sure.
So this strategic bet, this strategic argument that we are winning on the long run is disregarding so many variables.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think 20, 30 years ago, there was an argument to be made that the international community, that is a card that you can play. But I guess I think, yeah, increasingly, that's not something you can rely on at all. Um, okay, Ralph Baydoun, I've kept you way too long. Is there something? Can we just, if we focus on the pagers, like, do you have an idea of how it was managed? Because we're hearing that there was some explosive planted, or like it was done remotely. Like, do you like after now, like 72 hours or whatever, do you have an understanding of what exactly technically happened?
Technically, now we know from the open source that it was the explosion was part of the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
So they inserted this explosive 20 grams of highly explosive material within the board. So in a country where we import all our goods, we are so lazy and our system was so fucked that we continuously relied on importing products. And what's funny is that what's ironic is it's not funny, it's very, 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 very sad.
Yeah.
For the past 10 years, we've been talking about the illegal smuggling routes that's been happening in Lebanon.
Yeah.
The World Bank said a few years ago that our parallel economy amounts to 60% of our real economy.
Wow.
60%.
Wow.
That means most of our goods that are coming in and out of the country are being smuggled, are not passing through the normal channels. This
Yeah.
means so it's coming either via Syria and vice versa from Lebanon to Syria illegally. Smugglers getting those goods from unknown sources. You don't have like exclusivity. You don't have like the normal brands and the normal manufacturers. It's all done through third parties. And since Israel has proven that that they were able to hack one supply chain, how can we make sure that Israel hasn't or won't do that to other products in the supply
Sure.
chain?
Yeah.
We know Israel's criminal activity, past criminal activity, and creativity in
Yeah.
this field. They've poisoned toothpastes. They inserted explosions in chocolate bars.
Yeah.
They have endless possibilities. In 2018, we saw a wave of AirPods exploding in the US, phones, lithium batteries exploding.
Yeah.
What can prevent Israel from doing that again? So you've got a criminal, genocidal state that is willing to do that, and you've got a very, very corrupt state on the receiving end. So uh, I think it's only the beginning.
Yeah.
Until we start producing our own boards, our own toothpaste, our own, like the
Yeah.
basic stuff, we don't have the capability of resisting the way people think they are capable of.
Yeah.
It's not an equal fight until we start producing something. What we can do now is disrupting. Disrupting is not enough anymore.
Yeah.
And this the word depends on a global supply chain. We have to understand that.
Yeah.
Without international allies that are powerful and without having the capability to produce, whether produce goods or produce knowledge, Lebanon was the character of Lebanon was defined by this, by producing knowledge, culture, art,
Yeah. Yeah.
being the connection between East and the West. Now all those characteristics are gone. The rapid expansion of the middle class in the 1800s made Lebanon what it is.
Yeah.
Now we have the fastest decline in the middle class. So I think it's only the beginning, and the worst is yet to come. I'm sorry, I wish I can end on a more positive note.
No, I mean, yeah, on that gloomy note, I mean, it is what it is. I think we should look reality in the face. It's not a pretty picture anywhere in the world right now, especially in Lebanon. But thank you so much, Ralph Baydoun, for taking the time to speak with us today on Kalam Podcast. And we'll be following these developments closely in Lebanon.
Take care, Edgar. Anytime.